everyone, and in particular my two fans. So, hey guys, make sure to like, share, and get other people to subscribe. Not that you need to do that. Um, so, good evening. I have currently got my laptop rested on my air fryer, and I'm having to use my headphones here because I can't find my microphone anywhere, and we just had solar panels put in, and as a result my neighbour is threatening to report me to the police for harassment and antisocial behaviour. Anyway, so that's my day. How have you all been? Right, I know it's February, and I know that lots of theme park people spent January doing their review of the year and their plans for next year, and I think I would like to do that just so I've got my own record of it. But loads of people also did lists of their top favourite roller coasters of 2025, and that's a cool list. But loads of people have done that list. I thought what I would do is my top 10 toilets in theme parks, and I'm going to go from the worst toilet I've encountered in 2025 in a theme park to the best. So let's go. I'm going to drop some pictures from Street View and photos of my own in this. What I decided to do was actually not grab other people's clips, because I felt like some theme park YouTubers, and I've actually approached a couple of them, and they said they have so many things stolen they've just stopped even bothering giving permission. And I thought, you know what, if you want a POV, if you want an illustration of these coasters, I'm going to start just dropping a link. So if you want to see these coasters in action, you can go to those people and watch their POVs, because they filmed it, they went to the trouble. I'm never going to bother doing that, apart from my one POV of Shungalulu. We'll get to that later. Anyway, so this is my top 10 toilets in theme parks for 2025. Let's go! If you like. So, yeah. I mean, everyone uses the toilet, right? And I feel like your visit to the loo in a theme park should not be something that you dread. And something you go, oh no, I've got to go to the loo, and it's going to be horrible, and I don't know where it is. And this is also based on not just an age thing, God's sake, but it's also I've taken young children around theme parks, I've taken older people around theme parks. Everyone needs to use the toilet, and when you need to use the toilet, you need to use it, right? Especially if you've spent 3 days eating nothing but Disney buffets. Ask me how I know. So, my criteria are busyness, location, maintenance, cleanliness, and smell. Because sometimes the loo appears clean, but it smells bad, or it looks tatty, but it's clean and it's functional. And I want to make it clear that I am not going to criticise cleaning staff. If the park management is unwilling to employ enough people to keep the toilets nice, or pay their cleaners enough to want to do a decent job, then that's on management, that's not on the cleaners. I feel that they do a hugely important job, and that should never be devalued or cut back. So, I said already, everyone uses the toilets, and I think this is really important for anyone. Toilets should be easy to find, as in they should be clearly signposted, and you should never be more than a few minutes away from one. And if there's an app, this should be very, very good at pointing you exactly where you need to go. Because even if you don't have any health conditions or whatever, people with young children, you know what, children do not tell you they need to go until the very last minute, and suddenly it's urgent. It's absolutely desperate. And at that point, you don't want to be fiddling around going, oh, I think there's one over there, and it's hidden down the back somewhere, like at Thorpe Park. So it should be very good at showing you where you need to go. And the loo, the toilet shouldn't be hidden under various layers. If you're desperate, you're not going to be keen on having to learn where this particular park app has hidden the directions to the Kazi before you could go and use it. Now, I also can't really comment on accessibility or changing facilities, as fortunately I don't require either of these at the moment. You know, I used to, maybe at some point I will again, but most of what I say here applies even more so for people who need these features. They need a changing table, they need a toilet that they can access. So at number 10, I'm going to speed up my teleprompter a little. At number 10 is a really horrible toilet that I would not recommend. It is busy. It always gets long queues and it smells very bad. And by the time you get in there, you will be so desperate, frankly, you'll settle for anywhere. It is the Fantasyland toilets at Disneyland Paris, specifically the ones opposite Peter Pan's flight. Now, do not, whatever you do, use those toilets unless you were absolutely desperate, in which case, yeah, obviously, use the toilet. They won't let you wee in the lake in front of Peter Pan's flight. So, Fantasyland in Disneyland Paris is very nice. Obviously, the attractions are great. The staff, I think, are wonderful. I really like the food. I think the food is nice. I know some people don't, but I like the food there. And it's okay in the morning, but about 2:30 in the afternoon, the area starts to fill up with families. It fills up with families with very young children, and the children have been on the go all day. Their parents have been on the go all day. They're all exhausted. And when you go to this area, you are basically eavesdropping on a bunch of people whose marriages are in danger. And because there are a whole bunch of people hanging around this area, obviously the toilets get incredibly busy. And cleanliness is not too bad, but if you can possibly go to the toilet around the corner in Frontierland, they're usually much, much quieter because people don't know that they are there. And most people will just go to the first bog they see. And so that is number 10. It might look clean, it smells bad, because I think it's just a traffic issue. There's just so many people in there, you know, there's people having to change babies, there's children, anyway. But coming in at number 9, a set of toilets just slightly less disgusting than the ones in Fantasyland in Paris. It's the toilet in Fantasyland Disney World in Florida. Specifically the ones around the corner from the Winnie the Pooh ride, aptly named. One day I will tell you why I think that's appropriately named. It's next to the Tomorrowland entrance and Cosmic Rays. And again, they suffer from the same problem as Disneyland Paris. This whole area gets very busy, very, very busy. It is next to the most popular restaurant in Disney World. Everyone needs the toilet, and everyone just goes to the first toilet they see. And obviously, if you're desperate, I guess they function the same as any other toilets. The toilets generally in Fantasyland are not great, and the best thing to do is to try to find the toilet less well travelled. Usually the one towards Discoveryland in Paris is a little bit further because people just don't get that far. And I also like to know, American toilets are so public. They're so public. The doors are so small, and you can hear everything that's going on in each cubicle, and you can see like a third of the person. And I don't understand why Americans enjoy that. Why do you have such tiny doors on your toilet? It's just so weird. Like, you land in the US, you land in JFK, you go to the bog and you walk in and you can see everyone's feet. And that's so, why is that? Anyway, coming in, number 8, the Forbidden Valley bogs at Alton Towers, just the ones under the Skyway. They are busy, yes, but there's rarely a queue, good. And they stink, they smell absolutely horrible. And they smell horrible from park open to park close. Now, there are a lot of them, which I appreciate, yay. But they don't seem to be cleaned nearly as often as they should be in the circumstances. You know, the busier the toilet, the more frequent they should be cleaned. And because there's not usually a queue, I don't think the problem is that the cleaning staff can't get in there. I think it's just that the cleaning staff aren't doing it often enough. They're also quite tatty, and they kind of remind me of the toilets at my old school without the tracing paper bog roll that they gave us. And now, at number 7, we have the toilets in the Dome at Thorpe Park. And again, immediately the same issue arises. You've just arrived. It's been a long, really annoying wait in the security line. You need the loo. It's been a long drive. It's been a long journey. And these are at least usually less busy than Disney, but they are generally in need of a wipe down and a mop. Now, do you like sitting down and wondering why you can smell cat pee when you are quite far away from your cats? This is the toilet for you. So that's next to the lockers in the downstairs bit. There is another toilet just past security on the left hand side just before you scan your ticket. That is better. At number 6, also in Thorpe, number 6, the toilets next to Hyperia. They're cool, they're gold, they're very clearly marked, and as a result they're busy and a bit whiffy. And you spend an hour in Hyperia's queue and tell me that you don't need a wee after all of that. And so it appears so does everyone else. And I think they suffer from being the most visible toilets in Thorpe Park rather than hidden down an alleyway behind the Burger King, for example. Now, at number 5, we're getting to loos that are not actively unpleasant. Hooray! It's the ones under Dragon's Fury at Chessington. So they are a bit down at heel, but they have a little bit of theming. Alton Towers toilets aren't really themed. It's a shame. So I always like a bit of theming, and these are normally pretty clean. I often see staff coming in and out. The locks all function, and there's usually soap available, which I feel is like a small ask, but you'd be surprised. And at number 4, so I was expecting number 4. I was expecting the toilets at Paultons Park to be decent, and indeed they are. And I can't pick out any in particular. They are all, there's lots of them. They're well maintained. They are fully stacked with supplies and staff. And I'd say these are median box. They meet my median expectations for theme park toilets. You can find them easily. They're clean, and there are enough, so there's not a queue. Now, one caveat is I did not visit the loos in Peppa Pig Land, and I'm guessing those ones are not quite as nice, just because there's a lot of small children, bad aim, that kind of thing. Number 3 is, big surprise for me, Blackpool Pleasure Beach. I was braced for something less than ideal, and the sign saying that they had won the Best Loo Award at some time in the distant past didn't exactly fill me with hope. But actually these were absolutely fine. So visits to toilets should not normally be full of surprises, but this was at least a pleasant one. And it serves me right for taking on some prejudice about Blackpool and assuming that the toilets would be bad. Now, we're getting to number 2, which is the toilets at Europa Park. Now, even the toilets here are themed according to the areas they are in, which I always appreciate. And even the sort of temporary looking ones they have in the Croatia area, next to Voltron, have Croatian theming. They've got lavender, wildflowers, very nice, delightful. And I also appreciate that there are toilets in the queue for Wodan, which more of that please, especially if parks are taking away things like disability access passes and skip the line passes for people with disabilities if you need to use the toilet in a hurry. And I feel if you're going to do that, you need to put toilets in the queue, because it is absolutely not fair. If someone's caught short in the queue and they've been in the queue for an hour, they have to rush off to the loo and then they've lost their place. So any new ride, any new refurbishment, any new queues, I really feel that if it's like to get a long line, they absolutely should put in a toilet in there. I think a lot of people would appreciate that. And now, before I get to number 1, an honourable mention. And this is, surprisingly, the toilets under the Smiler at Alton Towers. So this is in X sector. You can also use the toilets as a shortcut. So you can go down to the loo, come out, you're in X sector, you don't have to go around the corner. So where else can you get such a good idea of the forces involved in an iconic coaster like the Smiler, simply by sitting on the loo? And then you can experience the rumble and the power of the coaster trains passing just above you. It's great. Now, number 1 is, again, something that maybe I shouldn't have been surprised about this. It's the toilets at Gold Reef City in Johannesburg, which was a wonderful surprise. There are loads of toilets at Johannesburg's Gold Reef City, and it would be easy to assume that, like Blackpool, the public loos in Joburg might not be one of the nation's glories, but I was so completely wrong. And what I think makes the difference here is the staffing level. There's almost always someone in the loo, refreshing supplies, doing a quick clean, and that really is fundamental to making sure the experience is nice for everyone. Now, I am also not deluded. I know why there places in South Africa can afford enough staff to staff the toilet whenever, sort of all, I want to say 24/7. So yeah, I'm not an idiot. I know why that is. But it is worthwhile noting that in a situation where you can have staff who are in a public toilet at all times, the toilets are great. But one thing I did notice generally in South Africa was people seem to have a lot more respect for the public areas than they do in the UK. there was less littering generally, and even really quite busy areas appeared to be cleaner and much better maintained than I usually see in the UK. So there you have it. That is my rundown of theme park bogs of 2025, from the worst to the best. Please like, share and subscribe. I am doubtful that I can get actual photographs of any of these toilets, but I will do my best. Anyway, have a lovely evening, and don't forget, always go before you leave the house. Bye bye.